What if the key to scaling your business isn't about working harder, hustling more, or pushing through endless tasks? The real breakthrough happens when you stop working in your business and start working on your business. When you shift from being a coach, creator, and closer to thinking and acting like a CEO, that's when everything changes. As coaches, we often get caught up in working in our business, handling client calls, creating content, managing day-to-day tasks. If you can relate to this, type in a +1. But to scale to a multi 6 and 7-figure business, we need to shift from being just a coach, creator, and closer to thinking and acting like a CEO. If you're here today and you're ready to take your business to multi 6 and 7 figures, whether you're stuck under 10K or ready to scale, this session is for you. I am so delighted and honored to welcome Jeremy Kopek back again. He's here to help us make that shift. He's built and scaled an 8-figure e-commerce business that he successfully sold and now serves as the COO of Tiffany Uman's 7-figure coaching business. Jeremy's not only a serial entrepreneur, but also an expert in leading businesses through strategic growth and navigating the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. I've had the privilege of meeting Jeremy through my business bestie, Tiffany Uman. Over the last few years, we spent time together, both as families and business minds, pushing each other to think bigger, strategize smarter, and grow with purpose. I always appreciate Jeremy's resilience, strategic thinking, and his ability to make tough decisions when things don't go as planned. Before we dive in, I would love to hear from you. Type into chat to let us know, how do you currently balance working in your business versus working on your business? What's one area you feel needs the most attention to help you scale? Share with us in the chat. How are you currently balancing the working in your business versus on your business? What's one area that you feel needs the most attention to help you scale? Share with us in the chat here. So here's what you can expect in today's session on scaling like a true CEO. How to develop a CEO mindset and lead with confidence, strategies to build systems and scale sustainably without burning out, how to evaluate situations and make bold decisions when things don't go as planned, the importance of understanding consumer behavior, market dynamics, and creating a seamless client experience for success, how to get your spouse support in building, growing, and scaling your business. Now, I did invite some of you to invite your spouse if you like. Some of you know that Jeremy is husband of Tiffany's business. So you're here as a +1, let us know as well. Jeremy, I'm so excited to have you back here. To kick things off, tell us about your entrepreneurial journey and what it truly means to scale like a CEO. How did adopting that mindset shape the way you built and scaled your businesses? What are some of the biggest challenges you faced? And what are some of the key lessons learned that could help coaches avoid common pitfalls? I'll let you take over the stage here. Welcome, Jeremy.
Hey everyone, can you guys all hear me? Okay, I'm good. Okay,
Yes.
amazing.
Oh, Tiffany just
Diana,
joined, by the way.
okay. So maybe so a few quick things if it's okay with you, Diana. The first is, I just want to say I'm so thankful to be here. Um, Little disclaimer, yes, I am Tiffany Ewan's husband and I am COO for her coaching business, but that wasn't always the case. Had to prove myself, probationary period, if you'd like. Um, and the second thing I want to mention, and this is something I'm very proud of, is I grew up in a first generation immigrant family, and I grew up knowing a mom who built her own company. So my mom is an entrepreneur herself. And it's a theme that kind of stayed with me my whole life. I was always surrounded by incredible women. So my mom, and then when I started my own companies or when I was leading, teams or working for a large retailer here in Canada, My teams just so happen to typically be composed of about, you know, 60 to 80% women. And I always viewed a lot of success due to that. And then the third thing I want to say is that that theme that has kind of permeated my career is something that I wanted everyone on this call to hear, because no matter where you are in your business, whether you're starting, you just have an idea, you're making 10,000 bucks a month, 20,000 bucks a month, or $1 million a month, I just want everyone on the call to know that a common thread here is that we're all entrepreneurs. We've all pursued something believe in. And I just want you to know that I'm a huge advocate. I'm a huge supporter of everyone here, no matter where your business is at. Okay, so this is really important. Diana, if it's okay with you, before I jump into the questions, I want to do three things. One, super quick intro. Two, what's top of mind right now for me. And I want to give you guys I want to lift the veil on entrepreneurship. I want to give you the non-podcast version. Okay. Not like the thing that, everyone says when they go on Rich Roll and they go on whoever. I want you guys to see some screenshots, if I could share my screen, of some real hardship. So real quick, I started my career in corporate. I led a nine-figure business. It's one of the largest retailers in Canada. After that, I had an insurance claim for $25,000. I took that money and I had a dream, and I was based in Asia at the time. And that $25,000 grew to, over 7 years, a $75 million in lifetime revenue company. We were doing about 20 million bucks a year with a team of five people. We had e-commerce operations, warehouses. This was in a drop shipping model. We had warehouses in Singapore, Australia, Hong Kong, UK, Canada, US, five people. We navigated through COVID and supply chain crises, all different types of challenges. And in 2022, I sold the company. Um, and then as part of that deal, I had to stay on board. It was a publicly traded company. So that was interesting, going back to corporate, which was not for me. And then came back into the entrepreneurial world working with Tiffany. And it's been such a great joy to come back to this world and supporting someone I love, someone that I believe in, someone who is helping people. And so this has been just a quick snapshot. I also serve as a lecturer for the Kellogg School of Management. It's a great MBA school, great talent there, and that's just fun way to give back. So that's a quick snapshot. Before I dive into what's top of mind, Diana, am I allowed to share my screen? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
so have all of you guys, I'm just curious, have all of you guys like been on or heard podcasts where like everything is like amazing? It always seems like entrepreneurs are like an overnight success, and like everyone is just so smart and they were first mover advantage and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, like drop it in the chat because I'm gonna dispel all of that in like a second right now. So you know that this stuff is hard. So I'm gonna probably have some tears when I show you guys this stuff. So remember I told you about the $25,000 that I started my business with. When I started the business, um, I took that 25K to buy the first PO of product. And my partner took 25K, and that was for our advertising dollars. And we purchased that first container of goods. All of my money showed up like this. You could see my screen. I got a text message at 8 o'clock at night, and it was 8 in the morning in Singapore. I was in Montreal, so it's daytime in Singapore. I get this call at 8 o'clock at night, and I'm told that we're sorry to tell you, but your product is soiled. There was a typhoon in Singapore, and it's good for garbage. I couldn't afford insurance. It was our first batch. and I literally cried. I cried for maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and my business partner wasn't happy. And I called the factory that I had known for 20 years prior or 15 years prior from my corporate role, and I begged them. I begged them to give me a chance to replace this order free of charge, and that I would become their biggest client, and that I would repay them over the course of all of our reorders. Um, and it was something they did, and we became their biggest client tenfold. Um, the first thing that I want to share with you guys is that business is really tough, really, really tough. Whether you're in coaching, info product, what I would call, or product, you're going to face typhoons. The question is, what are you going to do about it when they happen? We had other problems where clients were texting me, where products were literally collapsing. These are mattresses. And we're talking like 10,000 units of these, right? And losing sleep on this. What do you do? How do you return them? How do you offer discounts? Like, how do you salvage these sales? I got text messages from my business partner where he's telling me how anxious he is, how he's not sleeping for days at a time, but that by being there for him, you know, we're getting through really, really hard things. And here's another one. By the way, my partner called me and texted me many, many times through very, very difficult things. Okay. You're going to get these types of calls. You may have to lean on your coach, Diana, for that support when, you know, the leads aren't closing or you're not getting any leads, right? Or even worse, we were making $1 million a week per week. And in the end of July 2022, because of COVID, because of supply chain crises, we had $5,000 left on July 29th. We were 2 weeks from bankruptcy. I had been pitching. This is a real spreadsheet here. I'm gonna just bring it onto this screen here. Sorry. You guys could see this, right? Investor list. You see this column I, it says pass. This is how many investors I pitched while we were about to go bankrupt. X means not good. X means pass. 168 pitches, but it only took one. So one of the things that I wanted to share today with you guys is that, again, business is tough. And I want you to know that I empathize with the challenges you may be facing. And that's one of the reasons why having a coach is so helpful. And having these types of guest speaker sessions is so helpful so that you don't make those mistakes, or that you see that there's not only up and to the right charts. And so one last piece that I wanted to, the third part of this, and then we could go into grilling me as much as you want, is I wanted to share what's top of mind to me right now for info product. So presumably with Diana, is that fairly fair to say everyone on the call is info product, like coaching,
Coaches.
digital courses? Okay.
Yep, speaking.
So I'm just going to list these as bullets, and then through the questions, I think it would probably be best to utilize the time, just share these bullets, and then we could dive in and you guys could nitpick and we could really pull the thread. But these are the biggest things that are top of mind right now in terms of figuring out how you could scale your business. And maybe just a disclaimer before I dive into it. Um, most of the insights I'm sharing, most of the perspectives that I'm providing apply whether you're starting at zero or you're already making, 20, 50K months. But most of the perspectives I'm sharing are for those who want to scale a business. So this is not like, okay, I just want a lifestyle business and, I want 10 clients. I don't want more than 10 clients. And the reason is how you build the foundation of your machine depends entirely on where you want to go. So just a little disclaimer there. So here are just some notes I took in excitement for today's talk. So the first thing you really need to be thinking about in 2025 is the speed of your decision making. So info product info product businesses have no barriers to entry. I've spoken to Diana about this a million times. I'm always like in this sandbox. Unfortunately, for all of us, if you start a manufacturing company or an e-commerce company, you need to buy inventory, you need capital. That in of itself is a barrier to entry. Not everyone has access to capital, right? Or you're doing a SaaS business, and well, maybe not as true as of the last couple of months if you're using Lovable or things like that. But essentially, if you have a SaaS business, you need engineers, you need developers, right? But in info product, in coaching, virtually anybody can be a coach or sell a digital course. So there are no traditional barriers to entry. So speed of decision making is exceptionally important. It creates a moat. Number two is you want to be hypothesis driven. This is a mistake I see often in personal brand based businesses. Decisions are made based on the person doing the delivery, but that's not necessarily how companies are built. You want to make decisions based on data. You want to make decisions based on your user and what's best to achieve what we call product market fit, PMF. We could talk about this. The third thing, Gen AI, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever, has commoditized information and content. In other words, everyone is a commodity. Every piece of content is a commodity, and therefore you want to be as original as possible. So creativity, originality, authenticity, very, very important. Being a tastemaker, very, very important. This is probably the biggest one I'm going to share today. Of everything I would share with you guys, this is probably the best piece of advice I could share. Do super hard things. I'm going to explain. In e-commerce, so I'm going to get a little theoretical here. I talked to Diana about this. You have to think about what we call market dynamics. Market dynamics in the coaching space currently are a race to the bottom. So you have no barriers to entry. You have no moats. So essentially everyone could be a coach. If everyone's a coach and everyone has access to information, right? You could chat GPT list, what's the 10 top things for this? What's the 10 top, make a list of 10 things not to do when you're starting a business, right? Whatever. It's a commodity, right? In e-commerce, we saw this with Groupon. In e-commerce, we saw this in the furniture business with Casper. How many mattress companies did everyone on this call? I bet so many of you have seen Casper, Tuft and Needle. Like there's probably 150 mattress in a box companies, right? So what did I do? I did what everyone didn't do. I live in Canada. I didn't open my company in Canada or in the US. I did it in Singapore, where no one was, where every lawyer and attorney and bank said you're crazy to do this. But you want to know who didn't do that? All the other e-commerce founders. Why? Because it was hard. Why did I open the UK? Because compliance is so difficult in terms of product development. There's compliance, there's foam restrictions, there's all these kinds of barriers to entry. So when all the other e-commerce operators like, I don't want to do that. That's too complicated. I don't have a factory for that. I don't know the language. Isn't Singapore and China? Don't they speak the same? Like all these kinds of things, right? Ridiculous. Singapore has the probably one of the greatest GDP per capitas in the world. 1 out of 4 Singaporeans are millionaires. English is the great is the native is the language there. Population density, logistics are amazing in Singapore, but no one goes there because it's so far, right? So why am I giving this example? Because when everyone is just doing a webinar, doing a listicle, doing a lead magnet, right? Everyone is doing it. The second you say, you know what, I'm going to do what no one's doing, you've just created a barrier to entry. And now you have a little bit more white space, a little bit more breathing room, right? So now you're not in the sea of sameness. And the third, and then the last thing I wanted to share with you guys, and we could talk about this and riff on this. I hear this a lot. Oh, well, it must be so much easier when you're making 100K months. Oh, it must be so much easier when you have more leads. Oh, it must be so much easier when you have, I only have 2 leads a month. I'm sure it's so much easier when you have 50 leads a month or 100 leads a month. Let me tell you something. If you're making 50,000 bucks a month, right? And the next month you make 60,000 bucks, right? That's amazing. By the way, it's already amazing that you're making even 10,000 bucks a month. You know what I saw during COVID and supply chain crises in D2C retail? You have people going from $5 million a month to $2 million a month. Think of the order of magnitude of the problem you're facing when that happens. There will always be problems in your business. Here's an example. We see this all the time. Diana is the GOAT, but I've done some coaching myself. And someone said to me, "Hey, I have a lead problem, a lead generation problem. I don't have enough leads." I said, "Well, what do you think is going to happen if I give you 100 leads tomorrow morning?" Right? So I say, "Hey, Dolores, hey, Jackie, presumably, hey, I want more leads in my business." And I ask you this question. If I sent you 250 leads tomorrow, 250 clients tomorrow, can you deliver? Probably not. Probably not. Right? I can't deliver for 250 clients. So now you have a new constraint, a new problem. Those problems don't go away. They get harder and the scale gets bigger. So the key in, approaching this as a CEO is to first recognize that there will always be problems, whether it's getting a container of mattresses that are soiled, whether it's not having enough leads. But then the next problem is you have too many leads. You don't have enough closers. You don't have enough setters. You don't have enough bandwidth to deliver for those people, right? There will always be problems. And so I just want to kind of preface the questions that we're going to be discussing with this idea that this notion that you as CEOs, you are the tip of the spear of your business. You're the tip of the spear. You will always have the biggest problems, hair on fire level problems. And that's a choice that we make when we start a business and we scale it. And so I want you guys to kind of see the veil unlifted. So with all of that said, I think I've answered a couple of those preliminary questions about like challenges. I probably lost all of my hair because of that. Uh, there's a lot of them. I'm happy to walk you guys through them. So with that, I'll leave it back to you, Diana. I hope this kind of set the stage. But yeah.
I love it. This is so good. It's just a recap what I'm hearing, some of the lessons so far. The speed to decision making is important for growth. Being hypothesis driven, data driven. Having creativity or originality, authenticity is key for differentiation. Doing hard things, right? So that becomes easier later. I think the key, what I'm listening right now is like how to be the moat, how to really truly differentiate. And what I love what you just talked about is a great segue to this is around every stage of growth, there's going to be problems to solve. And I see this right now with clients at various stages, right? When we're first starting out, it's building your brand and audience to build that demand. Then moving into how to really get leads, whether it's the inbound leads. And then from there, I've seen clients where we have a lot of leads, like reaching out to like 400 people, 500 people, but we're not moving into sales calls. So how do we really nurture the leads? And then from there, it's like, okay, I may get on 100 sales calls the next 3 months, but they're not converting. And so I want to ask the question is how to approach in terms of problem solving at different stage of the business, how to really think through the problem when they faced when something's not working, especially for example, let's just say if they're launching a new offer, a new program, or pivoting to a new audience, and things just don't work as expected.
So one of the things that is really hard for us, all of us as entrepreneurs, is we've taken a bet on ourselves. And I'm just curious if you could drop this in the chat. Are all of you or many of you solopreneurs? Like you're alone, or do you have a business partner? I'm just genuinely curious. Solo, alone? Okay. So one of the advantages of having a business partner or investors is accountability, right? When an investor cuts you a check and says, here's 500K, here's $1 million, you can't just kind of be like, oh, thanks. Like, I'll use it when I'm ready and I'm good and ready. And you gotta have a return on the capital. You need to allocate your capital and do something with it, right? So when we're alone, by the way, being a CEO is very, very lonely. Um, when we're alone, we're not held to making decisions outside of for ourselves. This is a pitfall. This is a massive pitfall. Having a coach like Diana or your clients who purchase your programs, by virtue of that, this is very important because maybe you guys have heard of this analogy. If you were to take away, there's actually studies on this. If you were to take away, if you look at like say Elon Musk, and you took away all of his wealth, right? There is a very high likelihood that he would be able to remake his wealth extremely quickly, far more quickly than someone starting at the same level. And the reason is he knows the game of business. He knows the game to play. So making decisions is about the speed of the decision making. And it's making decisions with imperfect information. So our job, whether it's launching a product, launching a course, launching a webinar, right, is not to be tied to the outcome, but tied to the speed at which we're iterating to discover what I call product market fit. I've spoken to Diana ad nauseum about this concept of product market fit. I encourage you guys, if you're not familiar with PMF, to ChatGPT it, look at Lenny Rachitsky's blog on it, Google it. Mark Andreessen, who's a famed VC at Anderson Horowitz, A16Z, says there is no single thing more important for a startup than product market fit. Nothing. Literally nothing. Your idea doesn't matter, nothing matters. PMF is the most important thing. And how you get PMF, to Diana's question, how do you problem solve, is how quickly you make decisions to get closer to the answer. So in the case, very tactfully, what does that look like? Let's say you guys do webinars, right? Most info product uh, um, brands will do like a webinar per quarter, a webinar per month, maybe, because they don't have enough registrants, because of all sorts of reasons, right? Well, if you only do it once a month, your ability to get insights is only coming maybe 12 times a year. If I do it every single day, literally, I will 10x my insights vis-a-vis your business. So when I, started working with Tiffany, I applied a lot of software tech learnings to an info product business, right? And so how do you approach your business as a CEO is not being a personal brand. It's being objective. And it's saying, how do I problem solve very, very quickly to get answers more quickly? Another thing I want to mention, for those of you who have been in corporate, right? You know, when you've made decisions, like you're like tasked with making a decision, and you're like, I don't want to get fired on this. I don't want to get reprimanded on this. Or if you're in the product world, you're like, if I buy, like, here's a real story. Velvet in the furniture business was like a really big thing, like velvet upholstery. Everyone was asking for it. Our clients, my team. So I go out and I bought 100K worth because in the product world, you have to commit to POs, to inventory, right? And especially if you're buying in, East Asia, you have to buy 1,000 units or whatever. So I go out, I buy 100,000 bucks of velvet. You know what happened? It bombed completely. We had to do photo shoots. We had to upload it to the website. We had to warehouse it. And every month there's bills, inventory bills, right? Let me ask you guys all a question. Do you have inventory bills? Did you pay for POs? Did you pay to have a photo shoot done of your products? Make decisions on the basis of the risk associated to your decision. You could do a webinar every single day. You know what's the cost of that? The cost of your Zoom license and your time. And so what if there's 100 people who don't show up? There's two people who show up. You'll get two people who show up and you could test a new slide, a new script, a new close, a new value stack. But again, if you do this in 12 days straight, right, you'll have way more insights than the person doing it once a month. It comes back to my original hypothesis I shared, speed of decision. You're creating a moat. You're creating a barrier to entry that didn't exist otherwise in an industry that has no barriers to entry.
Yeah. Izzy, you have a question for Jeremy?
Yeah, this is super fascinating to me. I'm really interested in when you were deciding to pursue this market in Singapore. I'm really curious about the process you took to get there, the process of sort of doing that product market fit. So I'm currently pivoting from being a job search coach to, being more of a different kind of coach, a coach that helps others sort of achieve their goals in their businesses and things like that. So I'm trying to figure out what are the right types of questions that I should be asking with prospective clients to figure out what the product market fit is. How do I figure out what the most valuable things are? What's your process in doing that?
Excellent question, Izzy. Thank you. So a few things. So the first uh, pitfall or mistake that a lot of this is not just coaches, these are entrepreneurs that do this all the time. So if you guys are familiar, I do some advisory work for a VC firm called Sequoia. And one of the things that a lot of founders do when they're testing software or any e-com, so here's what they do, Izzy. There is a difference between validating your ideas, which is what probably 90% of entrepreneurs do. So I'm willing to bet I've done this mistake. We all have an idea, a product, a market, an avatar, a niche, right? And we go out and we speak to our users and they're like, hey, so let me ask you, wouldn't it be amazing to have a coach who does this? And they're like, yeah, of course. That's validation. Validation does not help you find EMF. It doesn't, it validates your own opinion. It makes you feel good about what you're thinking of doing. What you really want to do is be hypothesis driven. It's very different. In the case of Singapore, so I'll use the example of my business, and I'll even give you guys an example of how I would do it in coaching. So in my previous experience, there's three components that matter in e-commerce. Three. Number one, you want a sophisticated infrastructure for logistics. Like, how many of you guys buy on Amazon because Prime comes the next day, right? And you hate any type of e-com purchase that takes forever. There's no tracking. It takes forever. There's like 50 stops, right? So logistics, number one. Number two, population density and demos. So affluence, language, lifestyle, these kinds of things. And the third secret, Izzy, but this was a secret. This was my secret sauce, was proximity to manufacturing. So if you live in the US, right? Crate and Barrel, West Elm, when they buy product from Asia, they have to wait 3, 4, 5, 6 months before the product gets to America, right? So they've committed hundreds of thousands, usually millions of dollars to a product they've never tested. It's in a warehouse and it bombs. What I did, Izzy, was I was in Singapore. I would fly a single sample to Singapore, which would take 2 days from China or Thailand or India, photo shoot it, say I have it in stock. I didn't have it in stock, but I faked it. I had it in stock. I said 4-hour delivery. I couldn't deliver because I didn't have the stock. So I removed all friction to validate the color, the price, the product name, the product description, all of these things very, very fast. So now think of it. If I'm doing this in a 2-day iteration and my competitors in North America are doing it on a 6-month iteration, I get to PMF much, much faster. So how does that translate to coaching? It's the same. So you want to you want to pick an avatar that has a problem. So here's the, you know how I was talking about validation? So the secret is not this, by the way, this is all editorial. So Diana is, as I mentioned, she's the GOAT, and has far more insights than me because she's helped so many amazing coaches out there. But from my vantage point, I would say that rather than saying, hey, this is what I like, therefore this is what I'm going to offer, I much rather say, what's a big problem that this avatar has? And I want to be the best person to solve for that. You see that it's a subtle difference, Izzy.
Yeah.
I start from the problem first, not from the avatar. Because what ends up happening is that most business books and stuff, they'll talk about niching, the importance of niching. And in theory, that makes sense. You don't want to be in a red ocean. You want to be in a blue ocean, right? And all these things. In other words, you want to have room to play wherein you're not competing on price. It's a race to the bottom, right? So like you're going to see your competitor, oh, I do one-on-one calls, I do this, I do this, I do this, and it's only $1,000 less than this. It's a race to the bottom market dynamic. The second you get that, everyone's fighting each other on that, and everyone loses, by the way. Instead, what you do is you want to problem solve, not niche down. Problem solving up means identifying the biggest pain for a specific avatar and positioning yourself as a solution for that. And this is that like aha, right, of the Singapore analogy. And all of you who've come from industry, a specific industry, a specific vertical, you have an expertise in healing, in career coaching, in whatever. What you want to do is you probably have all these ahas that I don't have. Those are your secret sauce. That's your moat. It's not anything else but that. It's that one thing that you know that everyone else doesn't, and you want to lean into that. That makes sense, Izzy?
It does. I have one very quick follow-up question on that, and that was super useful. Thank you very much for going so in depth into breaking that down. The sort of quick follow-up is just on what you just said. So on finding the biggest problem. And so a lot of the time when you ask someone, what's your biggest problem? They don't always know how to articulate it, or they don't always know how to say it. What are the questions that you ask to sort of get them to help you uncover what that is?
So I'm really old school, Izzy. I get on a phone call.
Yeah, that's my favorite too.
So sorry, Diana, I'm going on like these stories. I don't know if I really hope this is helpful for all of you guys. So we had like 1,000 returns of a mattress. And they weren't, people were saying it's so soft and all this kind of stuff. I had tested this thing rigorously. I said, you know what? We're bleeding out. We're getting chargebacks, all this kind of stuff. I literally called 100 plus clients. Hey, Mr. Lee, tell me about why it's soft. And I did this 100 times. And you want to know what came up on a phone? This would have never happened on an email. This would have never happened on a DM. Never. I'm talking to this customer, and the customer says, and it was an expat, by the way. They're like, oh, we turn off the aircon in the day. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're in Singapore. You guys, you're wealthy. You live in beautiful condos. What do you mean you turn off the aircon? Oh, it's very expensive to leave air conditioning on in the day in Singapore, where it's typically 40 degrees all day long. I'm like, hold on a second. Bring that back a sec. What do you mean? Yeah, we turn off our AC all day. Oh, in very humid weather, 35 degrees with very high humidity, what happens to foam? It expands. When foam expands, your mattress is like jello. I would have never figured this out in a pristine home with all my nice samples and my 20, my 72-degree home. I would have never figured that out.
Wow.
Never. And no customer would have told me this. I had to get on a call. So my advice, if your clients, if your leads are not buying, get on a call and ask them why they're not buying. Like actually get on a
Mm.
phone call and ask them, and it's going to be really hard to hear. And you actually say, why aren't you buying my product? What is it? And like you could use like and I'm a little bit more crass like that, but I would say like what is it about my product that sucks?
Yeah. I'm going to
Like,
tie this back. I think it helped put into perspective. I think this ties back to really the concept of knowing your customers, knowing your clients, really understand them. There's a difference between gathering a bunch of emails, of getting leads, right? If you're getting like 50, 100 emails, but do you really truly know them? And one of the things that I found has been the biggest game changer for me, even the last several months, is taking time to get to know people, whether it's through a phone call, like I send voice notes, hop on a call, or inviting people to my mentoring sessions where I survey them, and asking for feedback. This is something I learned from Tiffany, is like asking for feedback as well. Like, what did you like? What didn't you like? What's hitting home? And that's going to help you tweak your messaging. So as an example, like a lot of clients have told me, like when coming on board, it's like, I feel overwhelmed. There's so much to do to build a multi six-figure business. And so part of it is like just knowing that information and feedback is, okay, how can I provide a better onboarding experience? How do I talk about the offer during the sales call to reduce the overwhelm, because they may feel like, oh, I can't do this or other. And so just that's what you're getting at, Jeremy, is just by understanding of what are those maybe objection points. Why are they not buying? Right? The
yeah.
real reasons of not buying from you, so that you're anticipating and handling those questions with certainty and confidence, not by surprise.
So one of the things, Diana, you're totally on point. So one of the things I did from inception to literally we were doing $1 million weeks. I created an email called founder@noahome.com. Literally every client that added to cart and didn't buy, I asked one question. I didn't say, dear Diana, great, hope you're well, all this kind of stuff. Ask one question. Not even hi. What could I have done to earn your business? Question mark, phone number, Jeremy. Every single idea that crushed came from that email. What could I have done to earn your business? And you guys could play with this, right? So you have clients, let's say you have 100% churn. None of your clients renew with you. Get on a call. Hey, Tiffany, what could I have done to renew you for another 6 months? Tell me. By the way, you guys probably got this in the last 50 minutes. I'm like, I say it how it is. A lot of us left corporate because we didn't want bosses, right? Who here left corporate because they're like, I want to be my own boss. I don't want to work for someone. Yeah? Newsflash, you all have a boss. You know who the boss is? Your customer. You know who your bank is? Your customer. You know who's going to fund your growth? Your customer. That's your investor, right? So when we talk about thinking like a CEO, I said this to a previous group. I may have even said it on like the version 1 of this podcast with Diana. I have a challenge for you guys. I'm getting ahead of myself, Diana. I have a challenge for everyone on this call. It doesn't matter where you're at in your business. If I write you a check right now, like I do angel investing, if I write you a check right now, hey, Sarah, I'm going to write you a check for 250K. Melissa, I'm going to write you a check for 500K. Dolores, 250K. What are you going to do with it? You're the CEO. You have to allocate that money. Are you going to hire a salesperson, a closer? Are you going to run paid ads? Are you going to, I don't know, build a photo studio or a film studio for your pod? You have to deploy resources, essentially.
Yeah.
Like as a CEO, you have personnel, talent, capital. It's a challenge. I would challenge everyone on this call. How would I deploy? Answer to that will tell you where you're driving your business towards.
Yeah, that's great. Tiffany, I think you wanted to share a story. You want to share a story, and I want to ask you a question since Tiffany is here. If you can share your story, what you wanted to share, and also want to hear how having Jeremy being your husband, also being the CEO, like really pushed you and scaling your business from. I still remember the time when you hit your first 6-figure launch. Like, what were some of those major shifts and pushes that really help you change the way how you approach your business after
Sure.
the mastermind you attended?
Thanks so much. Yeah, Jeremy, you were just frozen before for a second, but you're back. So hopefully that works.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, the story I just wanted to share because it was really timely with what came up prior about feedback and having calls. I literally had I would say, Jeremy knows this is a fairly recent example, like in the last 6 months, 6 to 7 months of a client, a very loyal client. And I would even argue one of my best clients who I found out was possibly considering moving to a different coach for like a next level goal she was working towards. And it was a goal that myself and my team could absolutely support her towards. And so I was very close of, being like, I don't know how I feel about that. But in the spirit of what Jeremy was sharing, I'm like, I'm going to reach out and I'm going to just like get on a call and try to understand where that gap is, what she felt might have been missing, since we had already worked through multiple milestones that she had achieved, all of them, and maybe what this other coach that she had in mind would deliver on that we wouldn't. And we had that conversation. It was very constructive. And through that, I was able to meet her needs and put together a different package that really hit on what she needed. And she was so grateful for that, because she was like, I didn't even know that was something that was a possibility. And so sometimes it's just about really hearing them out and finding the right approach that meets them where they're at, and also helping them realize what is possible through your ecosystem, whatever that looks like. And actually, just this past week, she shared with me that that example of me proactively reaching out and being, perseverant and showing her that we cared is something she's been inspiring from, and how she's showing up in some of the action steps we're coaching her on. She's like, I keep that story in the back of my mind. So it's just a kind of a fun full circle one of not just learning as a CEO of your business of what that feedback can do, but also how doing that towards a lead, doing that towards a client shows them like your character, right? And that you really do care, and it's not just a transaction, right? So anyways, I thought that was just a little timely one. And then your question, Diana, was how Jeremy's kind of supported me in making some of those
Yeah, to make
growth decisions.
Yeah, in your business, how that really influenced your growth.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of what he's sharing has been really instrumental in that. I think one of the members here, maybe Melissa, was asking it before, but Jeremy is very different to me. We have very different strengths, but I think that's what makes us a good team, because where my instincts go are not as instinctive to what would be the case for him. So when we think about speed of decision making, focusing on really building areas of the business instead of staying in it, and also being more visionary. In the past, I think I would be a little bit more short-sighted in like my planning. Like, okay, what are we doing this month? What are we going to do this quarter? And now, we think a lot more big picture of like, where do we want this to be in the next like 2 years? Or what are the things we're building now that's going to create this type of flywheel that will support some of the goals that we have down the line? And so there's a lot more longer term thinking and planning and solving problems like all the time, like literally seeking out the problems that we have, whether you call them problems or constraints. We use like both interchangeably, but really like, what are the constraints that we have to solve for that will allow for more growth? And I think as a prior solopreneur, we could often be the constraint where we are like things are too dependent on us. So that's been a big thing that we've been working on over the last year of building out the team, building less dependence. We're still working through some of these things, and now kind of taking it to the next level of what that looks like, while still maintaining the vision and the brand and the direction that we want to go. But I would say, Diana, those were definitely some really important ones. And I'm grateful for Jeremy, because he pushes me in the right way. And we have good discussions and good debates, but like needed ones where it's like the business is at the heart of it. It's like, it's not about taking it personally. It's like, this is what needs to be done. Like, we got to make it happen. And so that's been really helpful. I will also say, as you've all probably gathered with his prior experience, as much as I might feel like I have a major problem ahead of me, like it never feels like as big as some of the problems that Jeremy's faced, and like the weight that that's had on him over those years. So I also really, pardon me, I really view him as, a rock of like, when it comes to problem solving, using that as an opportunity for growth rather than like a setback. And I've learned from him firsthand, but now working together, he brings a lot of that energy into our day to day.
That's great to hear that. Something I know, a question I get from clients a lot too, is especially when you start as a solo business, and how do you navigate, I guess, getting in the spousal support? Especially when you're first starting out, you may not be bringing as much cash or revenue coming into the business yet. How do you navigate those conversations and dynamics? It's something I hear from my clients, especially some of my male clients that I hear there.
Is that for me or for Tiff?
I mean, I could share quick, Jeremy, and
Yeah.
I'll toss it back to you. It's so funny you say it too, Diana, because I've been seeing like a lot of content recently of like the importance of having a really supportive spouse. I mean, we work with like the acquisition.com team, but I know like Layla and Alex, like they share this kind of stuff a lot of like the importance of having each other and that the purpose that serves. I know Carson is so supportive for you, Diana. And like, I really think it goes such a long way of having someone that believes in you and your vision. I feel very grateful to have Jeremy, who's part of it now. Prior, he was sort of on the sidelines, still doing his own thing and still supporting in that way. But I think there's different, I'd say, areas in your life where sometimes you're supporting them, they're supporting you. When Jeremy was starting his prior business, I was still working in L'Oreal. But I knew that I needed to be that support to him at that time because it was like a roller coaster. And then when a lot of those bigger scale problems happened within COVID, that was like a whole other roller coaster, right? And then when it came time for me to start my venture, it was the kind of like the tables turn. And then he was like, okay, I want to be here for you the way that you were there for me. And so I would say like the common thread is like open communication. I don't think we'd be where we are without communicating very openly and directly with each other. And so if you do have a partner, I hope we all do, but if you have a partner who doesn't have to be in the business with you, but at least supports you and understands why you're doing this and doesn't make you feel guilty for that or like taking that extra time or sometimes having to do that thing on a weekend or a weeknight, but you're like, I need to do this. And they just understand and hold space for it. I think that's probably the most important thing because they will either fuel your dreams or they will crush them. And I feel really, really grateful for Jeremy's upbringing where he had been surrounded by entrepreneurship and strong women in his life that showed him, that that's the way. And so that never felt like a struggle for us. But the communication is critical. I don't know what you would add to that, Jeremy.
No, I think that's bang on for sure.
Yeah.
I would say maybe I'll just add this and I presumably a lot of you guys are on sales calls if you haven't grown your team yet, even if you have, you're probably recording those calls. There's something to be said about conviction, like actual conviction. So what I mean by that is if I asked you to pitch your business, would you inspire me right now to write a check, to quit my job, to join you on your mission? Why I'm bringing this up, having real conviction will help you close sales calls, will help you speak to your partner in life with a level of belief that is infectious. When I look at most of the entrepreneurs who raised money, it's not the ones who had, certainly not the ones who are EBITDA positive, making money. It wasn't necessarily the flashiest. It was the ones who walked in a room and you just felt that they were so passionate about solving this problem that it just moves you. And so I would encourage everyone on this call, whether again, it's your spouse, your partner, your business partner, your bank, you need a loan, your investors, your clients, your leads. If you speak with real conviction, and it's subtle, but like you could tell, it makes a massive difference. It will transform your business. And I say this to Tiffany all the time. We even kind of use it. Business is a video game. It's a game. Okay. Like if you're not like, it's like careers, by the way. It's the same as careers. You guys know Mario, like Super Mario, right? When you can't get to the next level or beat the boss, the problem's not the game. The problem is you don't know how to beat the level. What you need is to know how to beat the level. Maybe Diana's going to tell you how to beat the level, or you guys are going to help your clients show them how to beat the level, right? That's what Tiffany and I talk a lot about with our clients. We're going to help you beat that level, right? Business is the same. So scaling from 0 to, by the way, like you're going to see, so like what's going to get you from 0 to 100K months is not what's going to allow you to go from 100K to more per month. I promise you. It will not work. And so the key is being open to what it takes to get to that next level. And there's one saying that I love: you grow through what you go through. So, like Salima, Jennifer, Aileen, if I'm like, hey, I mean, probably if I spend 10 minutes with you and I said, hey, what's the one big decision or two big decisions you're avoiding? And there's for sure decisions you're avoiding, for sure. Those decisions are exactly what's keeping you from 100K months. I'll put money on that right now. And that's the truth up into 9 figures. It's just that the game gets different. It's not that it gets harder. The problems get harder, but it's always just a question of avoiding. Essentially, whatever you're avoiding is what's keeping you stuck in your business, in your career, and all of these things. So I just wanted to add that. This is really, really important.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to share a story to tie this back to the audience from a coaching perspective. Is for me, one of the big breakthroughs last year I had in the summer was I had this belief that I'm not a good CEO or I'm not a good leader to manage a team. And that's because I see Carson managing teams of 80, 50, 80 people. I see him a great leader, and I know I'm a great coach, but I'm not great at managing people. So this is a belief, an limiting belief that I had, and I had to work through that. And in fact, this belief I had to break when I was in my Paris retreat. And once I worked through that, changing that belief that I am a great leader, I'm a great CEO, it shifted into being in a more a mode of thinking more strategically ahead, because I'm, going back to being like, I'm very feminine. Like I operate in like my flow, how I feel, like what I like to do. But one of the things that really shifted for me was like, yes, I can still be in my feminine self and my best self if I want to show up. But the other piece is balancing of thinking, if I want to take this to the 7-figure business, 8-figure business, is thinking more strategically of things that I need to do differently. And so what that meant is being more strategic, intentional of how I want to manage the conversations up front. So meaning, like, traditionally I would have my VA, which is do all the content planning, but even just being the CEO, really thinking strategically of how I want to put my content out there, how I want to manage the lead management process, how I want to bring people in, being intentional about that. This ties back to the stock topic of like that scaling like a CEO is really getting you to think differently, right? Because as coaches, we care about the people we serve. Like we want to coach more. That's what we do. It's that, right? So we're spending most of the time serving, helping people. But part of it, this is like, if we want to really scale the business, which is what we're talking about today's topic, is we are stretching out of our comfort zone. It doesn't mean that we're not being our true self. It's just stretching out of our comfort zone that we're not used to doing. So for example, like I sent a message to you, Izzy, today, right? As a business owner, as we grow, is when we look at the numbers, do we just look at the numbers like, oh, I just grew a little bit, or are we analyzing, interpreting the numbers coming in like that? This year, compared to last year, I doubled it 2x, or I went from X dollars to this dollar, or that I'm working less because I raised my rates. That's where I want, my hope is to help all of you as my clients, is really looking from a business perspective of what does this all mean as I continue to grow? And when is the time that I need to start hiring people for help? And how do I need to shift being in that strategic thinking mode? It's, yes, there are times maybe I have to be more masculine, what Tiffany or Melissa was saying here earlier, but I think there is that balance of the yin and the yang, right? Like Carson has taught me a lot. Like he's a numbers guy. We're like completely opposites. Like I'm like the extrovert, all about heart-based, and he really pushes me to look at the numbers. But it actually has helped me think a lot more strategically and intentionally, and actually shortens the cycle of conversion. because I now have a process of understanding the time it takes when someone comes into my world to getting to a sales call. So that's, I think what we're talking about here today is helping you to think more strategically so that it actually improves your bottom line at the end of the day.
The concept that Diane and I talk about a lot is different perspectives on the same topic. And there's one analogy and then kind of a guide that I've used in the past, which is if you've ever heard of the 6 thinking hats. So it's this methodology around different color hats and different types of thinking, everything from being very analytical to aspirational to feeling based. And it's around not only there are default modes that you have where your strengths lie, but it's also ensuring that you're not blind to the other types of thinking on particular topics, because that's where your blind spots are, where there's either lots of opportunity or there's potential risk in what you do. So having that different perspective and thinking about it is really important. And the analogy I used, and this came from school, it was around really driving home the point of everybody has a different perspective, and it's very important. The analogy they used was think about a cow, like a real cow, and think about it from different perspectives and cultures, how people can perceive a cow differently. Traditionally in North America, like for, more carnivore based, it's a steak. Others would be milk. To a farmer, it's their livelihood. To, other cultures, think about from, in India, a cow is actually a god and they would never eat it. They'd worship it. And so even a singular object can have very different perspectives. So are you opening yourself up to those different perspectives to understand what's happening? And I think that's really important in your business as you choose to grow and drive it further ahead. You're going to hear a lot of those different things, and how are you taking it in and implementing into changes or things that you want to do. So that's my 2 cents to feed off of Diana's point.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing. Salima, I had a few questions. You want to comment?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say, this is one of the top webinars I've had in a really long time. So thank you very much. So Jeremy, I actually have 2 questions for you. And the first one is, I'm in a place in my business where I see myself as a constraint. And I'm well aware of this. And I've done a few experiments, I call them experiments, to try and find what do I need to do in my business to get out of the way. I've tried hiring a salesperson, didn't work out, any of my experiments didn't really unlock any potential in the business. And potential, I don't mean financial, I mean capacity. And so I'm just curious, are there any frameworks or any questions to ask or to help kind of direct me in terms of where to start? Yeah, that's my first question.
Great question. So great to meet you, Salima. I would look at it, I would ask you a question, and the framework I would use is, are you demand constrained or supply constrained? So demand constrained would mean, and this could relate to you, or your positioning, things like this. The demand constraint would be, for example, are you lacking sales, leads, retention, revenue, right? That kind of side of the equation. Or are you supply constrained? So time, delivery, things like this. So I'll give you an example.
Mm.
If tomorrow morning I sent you 100 clients and you're like, Jeremy, you're out of your mind. I'm just going to upset everyone, right? Then you are supply constrained. You can't deliver. You literally couldn't take those clients on. Conversely, if you're like, oh no, I have bandwidth, I'm good, I could deliver, but I'm not getting enough leads, you're demand constrained. So I think I would start there.
Mm.
And to my earlier point, you businesses will always have constraints. And when you solve for one, you're going to create another one.
Mm.
Like literally always. So here's just some little footnotes, Salima, and then you could kind of maybe we could pull the thread a little bit more. Just this is maybe more general for everybody. You could hustle your way to $1 million a year.
Mm.
You could brute force it. Literally, like get on sales calls, brute force, say yes to everything. Yeah, my course is $5,000. Can you do it for 3? Yes, sold. Next. Like you could brute force to $1 million. The problem is, can you consistently sell $1 million thereafter? Probably not. And the reason is, this is my other framework. I speak to Tiffany about this all the time, Salima. I prefer to think of a business as a machine. Am I building a machine? So when I'm building out a funnel, that's a machine. When I'm building out a framework for sales calls, it's a machine. Because machines, essentially what you want to do is you don't want a linear business. One input equals one output. You want one input that gives 10 output. So what does that mean, Jeremy? Well, a webinar like this is a perfect example. We could do this one-on-one with everyone here, but that's going to take, whatever, 15 hours or so, or 30 hours, because we'll go for 2 hours. But if you do 10 people, right, you get the idea. So you want to think of things in terms of systems and process. And the way I would recommend this, Salima, I did this for my business. I didn't say, yeah, and by the way, I see this all the time. It's a pet peeve of mine. If you're starting a company, your company is an entity. It's not you. It is an entity and you need to feed it. The way I see entrepreneurs do their business is, I hope I'm going to sell. You know what? I hope I'm going to make a sale this week. Hope is very nice. Hope doesn't pay the bills. Okay. What you need to do, and I did this, and I kind of still laugh at this. When I started my business, I said, I want to make $1 million in year one. I made $1 million in 8 months. How did I do that? I had a product. It was about $900, give or take, depending on currency. Okay, I need to sell half of a mattress per day. You're like, half a mattress? One mattress per 2 days. And every single day for 3 years, my partner and I would get on the call at 8 in the morning and we would say, all right, it's been a day. We didn't sell a mattress. What do we do? And we would literally pick up a call and DM people and make a sale. And we made $1 million in 8 months. Relentless. It's not, I hope. We didn't hope for nothing. No, hope is cute. We're in business. So I would definitely think of it that way. The other thing is, humans are not good at understanding compounding. Okay. Anyone here who's in finance will tell you compounding is exceptionally powerful. So our business, 1, 3, 7, 14, 21 million. But we couldn't have done it without machines, without systems. So that's why I said earlier in our call, it doesn't matter if you want to make, you're at 10K a month, at 2K a month, at 100K a month. The way you build your business today is what's going to dictate what it's doing in 12 months from now. I promise you. The other thing, sorry, Salima, I really want to get this up because I want to help you guys, okay? If you guys come from corporate, okay, or you come from retail like me, when you would wake up in your day job, right? You aren't going to your competitors every morning to their store and looking and window shopping and, oh, what are they doing today? What's the new thing in their window display, right? I see so many coaches. The first thing they do in the morning is they spend an hour doom scrolling on LinkedIn. Oh, what's this person doing? What's this You know what you're not doing? You're not building your business. You're giving views to someone else's business. And I get really up about this because I want to help you guys make $1 million with through Diana, through this webinar. Okay. I'm not here to like someone else's comment or post and help their business. I'm here to build my business. And yeah, it's good to know what your competitors are doing for sure. You have to know what's their offer, what's their position, all good, but not every day. Like, come on guys. Like, let's build here.
I love
Build
that.
something.
I'm gonna add some quick percent. This is like truth bomb moment, mic drop.
Sorry, guys. I have to say it. I'm sorry.
Melissa's like, I love this. What you're getting at, Jeremy, and this is, I hope this message hits home for everyone. And I'm so glad you asked this question, Salima, because what we're getting at here is that concept of like building the machine, right? So if we had to build a machine, like a sales machine, the marketing machine, and I had to really break that down, what does that really look like? Oftentimes the thinking is, okay, well, if I have a lead, I can get them to close, but we don't really think about the steps to get there, right? So something that I challenge everyone to think about is like, if you want to close 5 clients a month, how many leads do you really need, depending on your conversion rate, right? So for most, I'm going to challenge you to like 10x that, right? If you want to close 5, you want to get times it by 10, at least 50 leads that you want to bring into your funnel and pipeline, because not everyone's going to convert. Probably only about 10 to 20% is going to convert. And so just getting 5 leads is not going to help you close, right? This is why we reverse engineer to map that out. What does that look like? And the follow-up process, because when we think about sales, it takes at least 7 to 9 follow-up or for people to see your stuff as well to close. And so oftentimes most probably don't do enough follow-up. Like one of the bottlenecks I see for most right now is lacking the system or process to nurture the relationships, or the gathering the leads, but they don't really know the leads. They're not having those conversations to build a trust and add value. So we really want to ask yourself, and that's what you're getting at, Jeremy, here is like, what does that system or process currently look like? Is it just like an email that you're setting up, or just a one coffee chat? Are we moving into a networking conversation to a more like a discovery sales call conversation? That's what we call the strategic thinking comes into play. So one of the things, like one of my big aha I'll share when I went to Japan for 2 weeks, this was just over a month ago, because of those 2 weeks off, my thinking was, how can I better present my offers? How can I better speak to my potential clients to speak about my offers that makes sense, that will increase the close rate? And just doing that work, reflection work, the CEO thinking work, really helped me to reposition or rethink about how do I want to talk about what differentiates me? Because the question I've been hearing is like, how are you different from other coaches? How is your offer different? Or people telling me I've been coach burned before. Why is it hiring you better? Right? How are you going to give me accountability? And so this is where we're challenging that CEO thinking hat of taking time to think about these things so that you know how I can better improve either getting more leads, improve the conversations, improving conversions. And when you get better and better, also as you increase into your next level version of yourself, the conviction belief becomes higher. All right. And this is why it's so important too, that I always encourage all of you to share your wins, right? I did a post today is that when you capture and share your wins, you start seeing more wins. And when you share in the community of your priorities with each other, you're holding each other accountable. You play a bigger game, right? This is something like Tiffany always tells me. A lot of tells me that I start seeing possibilities for you because you start sharing it with each other, right? Remember, Tiffany, your story, when you came to visit me in November 22, remember that? It was a Post-it note. I asked, what do you want to achieve, your big vision? And we wrote it down, 7-figure business, world-class team, world-class program. We wrote all that out. It was just on a Post-it note, but I held you accountable for this as well. And just last summer that you told me you achieved that. And so this is the power of surrounding yourself with the right people, sharing your vision and mission, your why to someone that will hold you and empower you to reach higher, even when it's scary. That is so, so key. As we want to continue to reach our next level of growth and success, we also need to do the inner work of how we see ourselves. How do we talk about ourselves?
One thing, guys, I know the theme of today is like how to think like a CEO. So I have a challenge for you guys, and it's for sure uncomfortable. Maybe the theme should have been this is an uncomfortable, the deep cuts, Diana. But in all seriousness, guys, this is Salima. This is maybe another framework you want to think about. Okay, so I want everyone here. You're not the coach. You're an investor. You're an investor in whatever your company is called. Okay, so it's Salima's coaching or Jennifer's coaching, right? You're an investor. You're not allowed to work in the business. You're not allowed. You have to hire an operator / someone who's going to do delivery. You're literally not allowed to be in the business. You can only cut a check or vote on decisions. How are you going to structure your business? I promise you, it will be very different than how you do it now. Here's an example, legit example. When I started my business, I didn't say, oh, I love RH furniture. I'm going to sell RH furniture because I love it. I sold what I knew would sell fast. I was in the business of making money, and making revenue allowed me to then work on the things I like, I enjoy, that light me up, that could build a team, that could allow me to travel the world in first class. I didn't start with, I want to travel in first class, so therefore I'm going to do a business and solve a problem based on that. I see this all the time. I remember I told you guys, I'm going to give you perspectives if you want to scale a business. All good if it's, I just want to replace my salary. But I'm telling you, it won't scale. It's not scalable. So the way to scale that is to take your hat and say, okay, like to Izzy's earlier point, I want to pivot. All right, you're a board member now. You're not the operator. You're not doing the delivery of the coaching. What is the best? What insight do you have? What connections do you have, right? That allow you as an investor. By the way, you guys are all investors. You know that, right? With your time, your sweat equity. So what you want to do is you want to say, okay, you know what? I love coaching. I'm making this up, okay? I love coaching entry-level foreign students to get a job in America and get their green card, whatever. I'm totally making this up. You may love that. That may be great. You want to know what? You're not going to make a lot of money doing that in right now, given where the economy is at, given the discourse. So as a person, you may be like, I love that. But as an investor, you may say, hey, you know what? Maybe right now, that's not the right move with our allocation of resources. It's a hard truth, but it's a truth nonetheless, because I want you guys to get to 7 figures. I don't want to just say the things you want to hear, because you're not going to get to 7 figures. Those are the constraints. And changing your hat is the way to do it, Salima. That's just like a framework to think through, if that makes sense. I know it's tough. I know it's hard. But by the way, this is Izzy, super good tip for you guys. Sorry, I know it's Salima and Izzy are the ones who gave the questions. I made this mistake with 168 investors. I don't want you to make this mistake. So I got rejected 168 times. It was brutal. Literally, you build a business, you believe in your business, you're crushing, okay, and you're being thrown out of rooms 168 times. It sucks. But I made a mistake. You want to know what that mistake was? So simple. I made it all about me. I was going in front of investors. Hey, I need a 50 million bucks. Hey, I need money from you guys. Hey, my business is so awesome because we're so awesome. And you know what? They all said, no thanks, pass, 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 pass. Until an investment banker, a very close friend of mine, said, hey, Jared, you know what your problem is? You're not solving their problem. What's their problem? They don't have a portfolio with an e-commerce company. They're not making X return. Their portfolio thesis is about creating a a roll-up of various types of e-com companies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The second I changed, to Carson's point, my perspective, I sold my business. For example, the company we sold it to, the CEO, I went on a walk with him, and I said one question I hadn't asked any of the 168 investors before. I said, hey, Rob, what's your biggest problem right now? The problem you're not talking about publicly, FYI, because no one ever says the real thing. Like what they say publicly is not the thing that's keeping them up at night. And he said to me, I have a 130-year-old company. The average age of my customers is 65 years old, and I don't have an e-commerce website. I said, cool. I have millennials. I'm around the world. I know e-commerce. Let's do this thing. What normally takes 120 days to do what's called a merger and acquisition, it's typically about 120 days with due diligence, took me 2 weeks. Public, like I'm not.
Wild.
And I'm saying this because it was my fault. I didn't position myself the right way. So when you're pitching your clients, and I know there was I think Salima was for yourself as well. It was for like women with menopause or going through, right? It may not even be the niche. It just may be the frame. Like we could dive into it's not necessarily the niche. It's just how you frame it. My business didn't change for any of the investors. It's how I framed my company as the solution to their problem. Not, hey, I need a check. Thank you. I know, like, again, that was a really harsh lesson for me. It took 168 rejections.
I love this. I want to tie this lesson back, and Melissa, I'll give you an opportunity to ask one more question around systems here. What you're getting at, Jeremy, is concept of reframing, repositioning your messaging that relates to your audience or your target buyer's needs.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of messaging position that's going to resonate with your target buyer's needs? What do they need to hear to have that certainty, confidence, and that commitment in hiring you or buying from you? That's the question that
100%.
you'll want to ask. Because when you can nail that and you believe in that and speak with conviction, that's how you're able to, for them to see or to convert, to get them to buy, but also is for them to believe in you and trust you as well. Because ultimately, as much as we have an offer, they're also buying you as coaches. They're really buying you, not just the offer. Because a lot of times they feature, oh, it's like a 3-month program. You get how many sessions? You get all this thing. These are all the features.
Mm-hmm.
What's more important is also how you're going to help them solve their pain points, their desire goals, a transformational journey, and how you want to make them feel. And that's a really important piece from a messaging and positioning standpoint of how you differentiate. This is part of the brand piece that I talk a lot about, like the what do you really want to be known for? How do you really want to stand out in the market? So, at an example, like my program, I talk a lot about the self-care piece that oftentimes is not talked about. And I talk about how making yourself a strategic priority to grow your business. And that's like a core pillar of mine, and that's part of my brand. And so how do we showcase that how you stand out in the market?
Mm.
Okay. Melissa, you have a question about systems before we wrap up here?
I think I'm okay from it. There's always been a lot of talk, and this has been really, there's so many great topics here. For me, I hear a lot about systems, right? We have to build systems to enable growth.
Mhm.
And there's the strategy part of me, and then there's a tactician because I have to do whatever I think I have to do. Is when I hear systems, what does that mean? And I think, Jeremy, when you offered the challenge and talked about the demand side and the supply side and understanding where we are and what are the constraints, that's the system that we have to build as a result of where we are, right? Or am I misunderstanding? And that's kind of where I'm struggling with, which is when I talk about systems, and I'm not necessarily like everything we do, we have a system, but how do we scale it? But I need to know, I guess what I'm saying is the systems that I should worry about, of course, which is what I worry about, what keeps me awake at night is what are the problems that are happening now in my business and how do I address those? And they're going to shift, right? If I'm working on a demand side now, that's going to create a supply side. Right? So it's an iterative process that was always going to be evolving. But when I heard the word systems, because I hear it all the time, I'm like, what is that? Is it the strategy and then the execution? It's not like it's a bulletproof framework that we can just implement. It's going to be different. It's going to be whatever we have to do, and then look at where we're constrained. And then how do we solve it, right? Is that fair?
Yes. May I ask, Melissa, what would you say is like your biggest one or two biggest like problem right now or constraint? Or, you know, said more casually, like if this thing was solved, you'd be like real happy. Well, what would that be? Is it like leads, more sales? I mean, by the way, everyone always wants more sales, obviously, but
Yeah, no, and I know, okay, we're running out of, but it's kind of it's intertwined, right? I can say I want more on the demand side. I want more sales. But to get to
Okay.
more sales, it goes back to the root, which is what is it about me and what I'm offering that solves their problem that is so compelling that I'm going to get people into my pipeline, which gets down to, for me, at least in career coaching, is the differentiation aspect. What problems am I solving? And how do I make it relatable to them? Because everything I talk about is about, for me, if it's talking about hiring or career transitions, pivots, anything, I talk about how it's really about them. It's translating what we do into why it matters for them. And it's that messaging. So I can go back and forth, but part of the challenges on the demand side is making the message so compelling that they were like, yeah, that's my problem. But say, for example, like me, I get a lot of requests and, oh, it's just my resume. And it's not just their resume, right? It's translating what they do into why it matters. But I can't say that to my messaging because they're like, well, that's not my problem. Just fix my resume.
I understand. I would zoom out a little bit and I would say, and I think that's where, by the way, that's where, you know, Diana, and by the way, like on like how Diana helps incredible transformations for business owners, we all do, and I'm like, I feel cool like being part with everyone here, like we're all this coaching, you know, collective. I feel part of the crew now. But basically we do the same with our clients. So here's how I would look at it, Melissa. So the first thing is, and by the way, this is true for like any type of startup. So, and I apologize if you guys have heard this before, but it really is the truth. First, you want to do the things that don't scale. Very important. What are the things that don't scale? Getting on the call, talking to people. Hey, what's your problem? Hey, why are you not buying? Hey, why are you not returning? Things like this. Do the things that don't scale. And the things that don't scale, number one, is creating your offer. This is a process. Your offer meaning your positioning, your product, your pricing, how you're going to market it, how you're going to frame it, who's the avatar, all these kinds of things. This is more of an art, hence why people like Diana are so dialed in with this kind of stuff. But in any business, creating your offer is an art. And it's in doing the things that don't scale, speaking to your users, not for validation, but for hypothesis driven yes or no's. Okay. Once you have, let's call it a version 1, Melissa, then virtually all career coaching or coaching businesses are the same. By the way, all businesses are the same. I love when someone says to me, oh man, I shouldn't have started this business. I should have done this business or this industry. I'm like, all businesses are the same. You have to make revenue, you have to make profit, you have to manage clients or customers, you have to deliver a service or a product. You're gonna, you know what I mean? You have finances, you have payments, all the same. The key is once you have that offer, now's where you want to start figuring out what I said earlier, your inputs. Here's how you know if you don't have a system. You don't have a system if every day or every week you're starting over. What do I mean by that? Like literally today, you're like, okay, I need to hustle more leads. I need to hustle more calls. I need to hustle more closes. I need to onboard more clients manually. And then tomorrow, I got to hustle more calls. That's not a system. That's hustling. Nothing wrong with that. The key in that phase, though, is that you want to get as much insights, all the objections from your avatar. What are those objections? All the pain points, all the features that you need to integrate into your product, all the framing. And once you have that, you want to systematize that. Meaning that could be through VAs. Hey, I'm going to get a team in Philippines. You're going to cold DM all day, all night with these 3 scripts based on all the things I did as the founder. And now, Melissa, when you wake up on the next day, on Tuesday morning, you're not hustling client leads anymore. It's just someone's doing it for you. And maybe you're testing different scripts, you're validating, the close rate, the connection request rates, whatever, whichever thing you're doing. Similarly, onboarding. So how do you onboard? Is it systematized? Is it every Monday? Is it whenever you sell a new client? These kinds of things. So systems is just another way of saying creating a predictable and I'm just thinking on the fly, Melissa, like a predictable and proven process that creates an outcome that you have expectations of. So it's predictable, it's proven, and you know exactly what's going to come out. So that you're making
really
money
helpful.
you're making sales when you're sleeping, essentially.
This is really helpful. So thank you for that clarity. So right now I'm systemless, so I've got work
That's
to do.
okay. But that's okay. And that's, by the way, Melissa, that's why I love entrepreneurship, because doing the things that don't scale is actually where the best entrepreneurs are, because they're dialed in and listening to their clients, their avatars. They listen empathically. Hey, it's not only resumes, Jeremy. Oh no, what is it? And then you start picking
Right.
apart what it really is on a phone call, not in an email. Emails.
Oh no, yeah, I'm a big yacker, even though I'm kind of, I like to learn and talk to everyone to try to fine tune what's really happening, right? So this has been really helpful.
People have a TikTok level of attention nowadays. So yeah, like if you're hoping that a DM this big is gonna be read, forget it. So Melissa, that's why the phone call, you interrupt them. It's like people can't, like when you interrupt someone's process of, instead of swiping up or down or whatever analogy, when you get on a call, now you bring them down. Now you could interact with them. It goes 2 ways. It's like a tennis match where you're like, hey, oh, why don't you like my website? Oh, I never noticed that. I should, hey, Diana, should I change my button to blue? Yeah, for sure. By the way, people love talking about themselves, and people love giving advice on what they think you should do for your business because it makes them feel good about themselves. So FYI pro tip, talk to your users and say, hey, what would be like really cool in a coaching program? And they're going to say all sorts of crazy stuff. That's where the magic is. Because it comes back to what I said. It's the hard things. Everyone's like, I do one-on-one, I do 3 calls a week, I do group this, I do this, I do this, I have a community on Circle. To Diana's point, what does that mean for my life? And how are you doing something in Singapore? Just to kind of use that example, Izzy, do the thing that's no one else is doing.
Yeah, I love it. This is such a beautiful wrap up. I feel like as I'm listening to Jeremy, I'm tying everything back for all of you here. It's the systems piece ties in a lot into your strategy. At the end of the day, like what is your business growth strategy? And, you know, when I pivoted into all-in business coaching last year, a lot of it's taking massive, messy action. Like going back to the concept of, you know, the speed to decision making is very important, right? You know, you test things out, and that's what I've been doing. And by the end of last year, I really looked at the business from a strategic lens of how do I really want to grow the business. And I looked at it also from a human design lens of how I'm built, essentially. And I'm a super connector. I love connecting with people. So I decided strategically, I want to build a community. I want to do events. Like for the longest time, Jeremy's been telling me to do more events because I love planning events. But it wasn't until I felt like ready in terms of there was a market who wanted to attend more of my events that I started like, you know, I'm going to double down on it. So this year, just in January, as of January 2025, I've now done about 22 virtual and in-person events. But I don't think the market was ready for that last year for me. The market was not ready because I was still in the first year of building credibility, building my audience. So I think as a takeaway is really understanding what stage you're at. Do you have an audience? Do you have the credibility? Right? Just starting to build a community at the very beginning is going to be really, really hard. And so you really need to look at, this is what we call the CEO lens, is like, where am I at in my business and what makes sense, but also what feels good to you, right? In terms of from a strategic standpoint of how you want to grow your business. So strategically this year, I decided I'm going to host my in-person events, my mastermind retreat days in person, which is my differentiation factor. I talk a lot about self-care days. So some of you have attended my in-person retreats. Or I love, like this week, I'm going to Cancun to host my week-long Wealthy Worthy Mastermind retreat. Some of you are going to be there as well. That's my differentiation. It's not just the virtual piece. So I think about how can I help my clients get results faster and have massive breakthroughs quickly in a short period of time. And so this is kind of what we're tying such beautiful, but everything that Jeremy's teaching today is getting you to think differently. How do I be the moat? Right? How do I stand out? What will make my offer or program amazing? And how so that we get people to rally behind it, like that your customer is going to be your biggest fans or loyal customers to tell other people about you as well. So that's such a beautiful, I think, that I want you all to take away is this. This is why I intentionally brought Jeremy in, is to that different perspective. You know, so it is different from like what you're hearing from other fellow coaches, but I wanted Jeremy's perspective, who's not a coach, to think about this, right? So what a great session. Cleva, you have something quick you want to share before I wrap up here? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, I had to kind of like hop on and off. A quick question, and for what I did hear, Jeremy, that was amazing. So, confidence to speed to execution, was that ever a barrier for you? Because I think, as Diana and I have been discussing, that has been a real hurdle for myself in terms of speed to execution. Was that ever a barrier for you or an obstacle? And if
100%.
so, how did you handle it?
100%. So, Clavette, really great meeting you. Pro tip, confidence doesn't precede courage. Courage precedes confidence. Very important lesson. I have faced, like right now, you know, when you think of like when you get to, you know, running a $10 million business, $100 million business, right? You have to make huge decisions. Most of those decisions you've never made before. You want to know why people grow more comfortable making bigger and bigger and harder and riskier decisions? It's not because they're confident. It's because courage compounds. So, tip, make more decisions. And FYI, make more mistakes.
Ooh,
Ooh,
mic
well,
drop.
that's very convicting now, Jeremy.
No, okay. Can I give a real gangster hard truth? Seriously,
Go for it.
you want to know what gives me a lot of comfort? I shared some brutal photos. You guys saw the photos, right? Like I've been through, in business, some hard stuff. You want to know why I love working with Tiff in this new industry that I don't know as well as many of you, Diana, Tiffany? You want to know why, Clavette?
Go
Because
for it.
I know I could take a lot of hell and I could do really hard things. I'm willing to look crazy compared to tens of thousands of other coaches by being different and by doing hard things. Because when things get hard, when the economy gets hard, when people they're like $2,500, I ain't paying $2,500 for coaching. I'm like, good, I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna wake up. I got rejected 168 times. I'm gonna do 169, 170. I'm gonna keep going. That is what all of you guys need. Not saying you don't. I'm just saying that's what makes you create a barrier to entry, a moat. So courage, the more you flex that rep, Clavette, of courage, and trust me, you're going to have to make hard calls. You're going to be like, oh man, should I say this on a webinar? Should I do this post? Should I give this price? Should I like, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna pitch $7,500 today. You're like, do it. What's the worst that's gonna happen? They're gonna say no. But
Absolutely.
every time you flex that, Clavette, you know what? The next time I'm gonna charge 7,700. I did 7,500. I didn't feel that bad, right? You build confidence. And then with confidence, you start making bolder and bolder moves. You're not playing small. That's the secret. There
Absolute.
is no secret.
Awesome.
It's just like, do it. You know what I mean? Don't be scared. What's the worst that's going to happen?
Clavette,
Well, that's
to hear that. We're going to Cancun. Thank you.
But I come.
She needed that message
Thank you.
before coming to Cancun with me. This is why you're here today. All
I
right,
did.
I'm gonna wrap up.
Absolutely.
I gotta wrap
Thank you.
up here. I got a sales call to go. Okay, this was such an incredible session. Like we can go on forever. Like Jeremy, like I think this year, last year, we can go for like 2 hours here. So just thank you so much. It was such an incredible session. I appreciate your time, your insights, your truth bombs. Like just you really caring. This is why I brought you back, and we covered a lot today. But so one of the key takeaways, clear, is to truly scale your business, you need to shift your mindset. Building the right strategies, the right systems, surrounding yourself with the right people so that you can work on your business, not just in it. So I really hope today that you walked away with some amazing actionable strategies that you can start implementing right away, whether it's creating systems that support your growth or making more bold decisions when things don't go as planned or you're not sure what the outcome would be. Remember, you are the CEO of your business, and it's time to step into that role with courage and confidence. Take action on what you learned today, okay? If you're ready to scale, I encourage you to start focusing more on working on your business and less on the daily grind here. So thank you so much, Jeremy, for inspiring us today. Your journey, your resilience, your wisdom have just been truly inspiring. And I'm just so excited for everyone here to apply all the insights that you share today. And I just want to say I'm so grateful for all of you. This month's been a crazy month. Some of you already heard it's been like my best month this month and most busiest month with 8 events. Today, Jeremy wrapped on a high note with 8 events this month, and I'm celebrating that. And
Amazing.
Next month, we have 2 incredible sessions lined up. Mark your calendars. May 22nd at 2 p.m. Eastern, we have our next monthly Coaches and Business Real Talk on how to become the next level version of you to quantum leap your growth, where I'll be bringing in all my mastermind clients to share their breakthroughs and lessons learned. To be fresh, 2 weeks back from our trip. And May 29th, I'm delivering a masterclass on how to master lead generation and conversion. This is one of my trainings that I'm about to deliver in June to thousands of people for the coaching.com summit. So it's part of my dry run to my own warm audience. I would love to invite all of you to come there. And I'm heading to Cancun later this week to host my third sold out Wealthy Worthy Mastermind retreat that Tiffany was part of 2 years in a row, where she had massive breakthroughs. First year was launching her first 6-figure launch, and the year after getting to 7-figure business. So it's going to be a transformative experience, and I'm so excited to bring 7 of you with me to help you reach your next level of impact, influence, and income. So thank you again for joining us today. Keep scaling, keep growing, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Amazing.